Hi, I'm Gayla Scrivener, ex-corporate girl and now work-from-anywhere adventure seeker. Creating a work-from-anywhere lifestyle isn't without its challenges, but those challenges certainly don't overshadow all the many benefits. What breaks my heart is seeing folks stuck and unhappy in a career and lifestyle when they want more out of life. I believe that we all have the opportunity to create the life of our dreams and earn a living in fun and creative ways to make our dream lifestyle a reality. You too can experience wonderful adventure and freedom as you live life on your own terms. In this weekly podcast, I share experiences when it comes to growing a lifestyle business through guest interviews, content marketing experience and perspectives, virtual leadership lessons, and I'll even throw in some travel adventures. My hope is through all the interviews, the tips, advice, and personal experience, you'll be inspired and motivated to keep going and creating your dream lifestyle. Life's an adventure. There's no time but the present to live life to the fullest. Hi there, and welcome to the show. Today, I bring back Marshall Townsend II as we dive into talking about the right way to set goals. I was a bit surprised at first about his perspective on the SMART goal concept because SMART goals have been drilled into us forever. But Marshall takes us onto a different journey when it comes to goal setting. Marshall Townsend II is a professional leadership coach, mentor, speaker, and retired lieutenant colonel whose passion for and dedication to empowering others have earned him the reputation of a service-centered leader within his community. Over the course of 2 decades, he has gained extensive coaching experience as well as another 2 decades of leadership expertise in the Army, helping thousands of people thrive along the way. Marshall's affinity for helping people has been lifelong, but the spark for coaching entered his life during his military service. It wasn't long before he discovered his innate talent for positively influencing leaders by inspiring them to think outside the box and cultivate a deeper sense of camaraderie between them and their soldiers. Ultimately, this got him noticed amongst his peers, leading him to be selected by prominent senior leaders to teach organizations and fellow leaders alike. Today, Marshall proudly serves as the founder of MT2 Leadership, where he gives clients value with his life-altering tools needed to pave the way for personal and professional prosperity. In 2016, he joined the John Maxwell team, and in 2017, he moved up to become an independent executive director with the John Maxwell team. Well, let's just get right into the conversation, shall we? Well, welcome, Marshall. I am so glad you're here. It has been almost a year ago, almost to the day. It was last March when you appeared first on the Gayla Scrivener show, and we were talking about mark your ball and getting out of your comfort zone. And I'm so glad you're here because I wanted to bring you back because I just enjoy talking with you, first of all. And second of all, you have some new goal-setting offerings that would really help my listeners. And I wanted to bring you back on and let's talk about you for a little while. Before we get started, why don't you remind my listeners who you are and tell a little bit about yourself?
Well, my name is Marshall Townsend, and my company is MT2 Leadership, and I formed that company about 5 years ago. I had spent 20 years active duty in the military, in the Army, and then I had been asked to step in to help train the Army National Guard, and I did that for another 18 years of working with the National Guard all across the country on the Army side, teaching leadership, training leadership, and coaching and mentoring the senior leaders within the organizations. So I had a lot of this background, but under that umbrella of doing that, I was working for corporate America. I was working for General Dynamics, Northrop Grumman, big corporations that paid my paycheck while I provided my coaching to the Guard. And then there came a point in time when it was time to get out of corporate America and step out and start my own business. So I made that journey to jump out, become an entrepreneur, and start my business as a coaching business and take what I knew from those almost 40 years and help start working with businesses.
What was the trigger? Why did you want to go out on your own versus working with corporate America?
Well, it's rather interesting. The truth is, it really has to do with kind of what pisses me off
Mm-hmm.
is that I was in this job where I was totally focused on my customers, my clients. But there was this institution that was behind me that was directing what I was allowed to do. And the longer I stayed, the more they wanted to control and limit what I could do. And they were moving me out of being a leadership trainer to becoming a management trainer. And that turns me off completely. So that upset me. That pissed me off. But then what really broke my heart is I realized that my commitment to serve and be there every day for them had a heavy toll on my family. My parents, passed away right toward the end. As my parents passed away, they were 93 and 92. But in those last years, I was not able to leave and have the freedom to be able to go be with them and be with my family. And that ultimately resulted in the collapse of a divorce and my parents passing away without me being able to make that final connection with them. And that just broke my heart. And that's when I kind of said, I'm going to do something about this. Here's what the cause is. Here's the effect. I'm going to do something and I'm going to take my knowledge of that and go out and help other people who are going through the same thing find their path so they can find the freedom to be able to get back to be able to engage in their lives with their families and make the entrepreneur thing work for them. There was kind of a journey there. It was a tough journey but the second I stepped out of that and started my own business, it was like a world of change. The world changed for me.
Well, you said something interesting that popped out in your journey, that you were being like pigeonholed from being a leadership trainer to a management trainer. What's the difference between leadership and management?
Well, it's I talk about this a lot of things. One of the things I talk about the campfire. When you're on a journey, you're going to climb the mountain. Okay, you've got this goal in your life, you've got this vision, you got this dream. I'm going to climb that mountain. And you jump out of the car, you start the trail, you're headed out, and at the first time you get in trouble or run into a roadblock or the trail gets rough, you say, okay, I'm doing pretty good here. I'm going to step off the trail, take a break. I'll set up a campfire, base camp, and I'll sit down. So one of the things is that about a campfire is that you cannot lead a campfire. At most, you can manage a campfire. And the job of the manager is to always keep the campfire going, but never let it go anywhere. Because Smokey the Bear is going to get upset if the campfire goes anywhere. So the object is to keep a steady, fire going, but never let it go anywhere. The difference is a leader lights a torch from the fire and takes it over the hill into the darkness and leads people up the road. So many people might say, okay, a manager keeps the trains running on time. A leader builds the tracks to new locations. So there's a difference between the two in terms of when you work in an organization. It's very easy to get stuck into managing people, managing organizations, which is important to keep the trains running on time. But if you've got an organization that you're trying to, or yourself, you're trying to take someplace, it's got to be leadership.
So for a solopreneur or very small business, the leader and management role is very much under the same cap, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. The very hardest person I have to lead in my life is me. It's me.
I hear you.
I'm raising my hand here. It's me. I'm the hardest one to lead. I'm the one who wants to run over and sit at the campfire all the time. It's very easy to do that, to kind of just circle back around.
So you have to kind of be back and forth. If you can't be stagnant. That's why we were talking about in our last episode, you're talking about getting out of your comfort zone. You just can't be at the same place. You have to lead the way, lead the journey, get out of your comfort zone. And in an organization, you have different roles and people fill different roles. But if you're a small company, oftentimes that's just you. Do you have any advice on how you can kind of compartmentalize or how you can have a balance when it's just you?
Well, it's like I said, it goes back to leading yourself. And there's this great. I read the book from John Maxwell, the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and then that he talks about the law of the lid. which I think is law number one. It's the base one. And that is, we put a lid on ourselves that limits, basically. So on a scale of 1 to 10, let's say you have a leadership quality, even if it's leading yourself, leading your team, you have a leadership about a 4 or 5. Everybody in your organization, all of your thoughts, all of your ideas, all of the projects that you're working on are going to be let's say you're a 4, then they're a 3 and below. Because what I've learned in life, and especially in the military, my years in the military, is if you have somebody that's an 8 or 9, they are not going to come join you down at the 4 level, and they're not going to come under you. They might come in there for just enough to get a paycheck from you for a couple of days, but they're out the door with, very quickly. So they don't come down to you. You have to go up to them. So you have to continuously grow yourself. You have to educate yourself. You have to study and like I say, raise your lid up to a 5, a 6, a 7. And when you do, not only do higher level people start coming under you, but you start seeing at a 5 and 6 level, you start seeing assets, you start seeing research, you start seeing options and possibilities at a higher level. So as a young entrepreneur, I don't care how good you are or where you are, when you start, you're going to be a one or 2, and you've got to quickly start growing to move yourself up.
And leading a business while at the same time managing it if you're very small.
Absolutely. But it's kind of like, I always say, I can take it back to what I'm talking about, climbing the mountain. There's that moment in time when you're climbing and you can't see anything. You can't see the forest because the trees are in the way. That old joke. And then there's that moment you break out of the tree line. And if anybody's ever climbed up to a high peak or a mountain, there was that moment you break out of the tree line and you see a world that you've never seen before. And you couldn't have seen it down in the forest. But when you get up above that point, you see a world and you see possibilities, you see options, and you start thinking at that level. And that's where you got to get up to that point. But if, as an entrepreneur, if you're not growing yourself, your business won't grow. So in order to grow the business or to grow your team, you got to grow yourself first. Yeah. And then they come to you.
If you knew what you knew now, back when you started, is there anything that you would have changed?
Oh gosh, there's probably is. But I'll tell you what, we're thinking about this time right now. It's February. When we're recording this, you're going to put this out in March, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We're on the anniversary of 30 years ago was Desert Storm. Yes. And on this day, we were headed into Iraq on the attack. It was interesting. And one of the things I learned when I got out of that, just as a note, I developed since then 10 lessons, which I call lessons from the desert. Mm-hmm. But at that time, when we launched into that area, you got to understand Saudi Arabia is flat. You cannot imagine how flat Saudi Arabia is. The world is basically blue sky, brown dirt. Okay. Huh. So when you're out there, you can't tell where you're at. You have no reference point. There's no distance mountains. There's no roads. You're just there in a blue sky, brown dirt world. And there's no idea. You can't tell where you are. And we didn't have GPSs at that time. This is before that technology. So you had to shoot a compass bearing and you had to look at the speedometer and drive a set distance, stop, get out and shoot a bearing again. And one of the lessons we learned in the desert was, don't stand next to the Hummer when you shoot your bearing, okay? Because the compass is going to point at the Hummer every time. You're trying to find north, but there's this big metal object standing next to you, and the compass will go, oh, there's north. So you end up driving around in circles so in life, as we step away from corporate America, this is my lesson is don't stand next to them. When you step away from corporate America, you got to step away from corporate America. Or your corporation or that company. If you're going to step into entrepreneur, you can't put one foot into it and kind of, it's my hobby. You've got to walk away and shoot your bearing to make sure what got you to that point is not, you're not being stuck to that. You're reversing right back to it. It's kind of like the campfire. Mm-hmm. You get up the trail. There's this calling. You got to figure out what's calling you more, your dreams Is your dream calling you, or is the campfire calling? And which way are you going to go?
Well, that sounds like you got to be all in.
Here's the thing you got to know is that your dreams want all of you. They don't want part of you. They don't want it to be your dreams don't want it to be a hobby. Your dreams want all of you. You've got to commit in. And that's tough because, like you say, you've got to leave the campfire behind. You got to go over the hill. One of the things I talk about is that there's that point in time on the journey where you have to go where you can't see the way home. So you're starting up the trail. And this is a lot of people do is they start the trail and they can see their mountain, but they can turn around and still see the car in the parking lot. And at the last moment, the last bit of the rise that they're going to go over, that they're going to lose sight of the car, that's where they decide, I'm going to build the campfire. This is where I'll set up base camp right here, because I got the best of both worlds. I can see the car, I can see the mountain. I'm safe here. This is my comfort zone. This is my safety spot. That's one of the greatest mysteries in life is the question they ask people, is your comfort zone really a safe place? Is your comfort zone a safe place?
Yeah.
And if you take in terms of the campfire, it's good until the wood starts. You've burned up all the wood. You've eaten all the food. Everybody around the campfire is now yelling and screaming at each other because it's not a comfortable place to be. But we can't leave. We're going to stay there in the comfort zone. So
goal setting is very important for anyone, personal, professional, and you're developing and releasing goal setting webinar coming up.
Yeah.
Do people struggle with goal setting?
Well, actually, it's got to do with this. This is the talk I've been doing, and what I've been asked to speak on and brought in is getting out of this comfort zone, this journey up the mountain. And when you get stuck in your comfort zone or around the campfire, how do you get out of that? How do you escape? What's the first thing you got to do? And a lot of things is, well, you just need to have determination. You need to have, really the strength. You need to empower yourself to get out of the, get out of it. And the truth is, no, it's got to do with your goals and why you're going to leave the comfort zone. Because you see, if you have a goal to climb the mountain, and that goal is of a certain level, I always go 1 to 10. If that goal is a level 4 goal, but the pain of climbing the mountain is a 6 or 7, you're going to go right back to the comfort zone. You're going to abandon that goal. You're going to leave that goal behind because the pain is too much. If the comfort of the campfire is greater than the value of the goal, then you'll go back to campfire. So when you're setting goals, to me, you gotta understand that there's a lawful process of achieving a goal, which are based on what the 7 laws of like cause and effect. Cause and effect is one of the processes of achieving a goal. But where we make our mistakes in goal setting is we set goals not using our intellectual faculties, because goal achieving is a lawful process. Goal setting is an intellectual process, and we fail to use our intellectual processes, or if we use our intellectual processes, we use the wrong ones. And we make what I say the 7 mistakes that people make based on that.
Can you give us a few of those mistakes?
So intellectual processes, one is reasoning, memory, our willpower, our intuition, our imagination. When you set a goal using your reasoning mind, you're using the very best thinking. You're using your mind right now. You're using your very best thinking in the here and now. But if you're sitting next to the campfire, you're using campfire level thinking. You're using your here and now thinking. And you're thinking in terms of what you can do, what you can accomplish, and what a goal means to you is what you can do right now. And that's one of the mistakes, is we set goals based on what we can do right now, what we can achieve.
So they're not lofty enough.
They're not lofty enough. Yes. Like I say, if the pain is greater than the goal, then you always will quit the goal.
But can you be totally unreasonable? Is there a happy medium? Or
well, there is. It's part of this process of really what is that goal you're trying to achieve when you set the goal. Because like I say, the mistake is in the setting of the goal, not trying to achieve the goal. When we set goals based on we're setting goals we know we can achieve, we never become passionate about that goal. We never really take ownership of it. We never really, it has no value to us because we can do it. And I see that, if anybody ever hear of the S.M.A.R.T goals, You ever
Oh,
heard?
yes. I was at that is
Yes,
what
because what's the A
popped in
stand
my mind.
for? It's achievable. So I really don't like the term SMART goals. SMART goals are it's SMART tasks. See, if I can do something, that's a task. I can stand up, I can put my backpack on, I can tie my bootlaces all by myself. I can hike up the trail. And those are all things that I can do. And I can do them all day long. Those are achievable tasks. But my goal has got to be higher than that. When I set my goals, I have to get rid of my memory. That's another one of my intellectual faculties I have to get rid of, because my memories are based on yesterday and my goals are based on tomorrow. And when I look back at my recall of my memory, I bring with it all the bad things. There's good things and bad things that weigh me down and make me limit my goals again. I start limiting. When I use my willpower, I get blindsided into just, okay, this is how things are done. I'm laser focused. I'm using my will to laser focus on this goal, but I see no options. I see no possibilities. I see no discovery learning on the way, because it's one way. This is my willpower. This is how I'm doing it. So I got to set that aside. But the intellectual faculties we got to use is our imagination and our intuition. Our imagination creates a goal that has possibilities, and that's outside of ourselves. That's, we need to be able to sit down and imagine not only what the goal is, but what would it be like to be at that level? What does that look like, feel like, smell like?
Mm-hmm.
All our five senses there when it comes to that goal. And if we don't take the time to kind of sit down and imagine what that goal, what it feels like, what's it like to have achieved that goal, it's very easy for us to just to say, okay, there's a task to do. I'm going to do it. Okay, those are things to do. I can list out a lot of things to do and call them goals, but there's no passion attached to that goal. They're just things to do. And then our intuition is the one thing that we don't trust, is we don't trust our intuition. I think it's Wayne Dyer. He says that prayer is when we talk to God, and intuition is when God talks back to us and gives us an idea, gives us a spark, gives us something. And if we take that in and we pay attention to our intuition that says that's really what we need to be doing, that's the next step. That's what I need to be doing. And then allow your imagination to shape that, you come up with a goal that actually belongs to you. It's yours. You're passionate about it. It's part of your dream. And like I say, your dream calls to you. It's not a list of things you found in a book to do. It's not a list of something that you just made up, or a list of things somebody else told you to do. This goal is actually something that you created from inside you, and you're much more likely to go after that goal. So when things get tough, that goal still has meaning to you. It has value to you.
Is it that your goal or your main goal that you're passionate about, is that something like uh, almost like a mission? Your life's mission, or your mission, your internal
Mm-hmm.
personal
It does.
mission?
It kind of that dream, or that who you are, your
Mm-hmm.
DNA, that kind of drives that this is what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Do you think that there's too many goals? Do you think people set too many goals?
and I think it is that we make tasks goals. There's lots of tasks to do, and we can say those are goals. When I talk about this, is that what is the object? Is one of the other mistakes that we make, is that we think the object of a goal is to get something. The true object of a goal is to become something instead of get something. So when I look at the mountain, do you want to climb up to the top of the mountain, put a flag on it and say, this is my mountain, here it is, I'm on top of the mountain? Or do you want to become a mountain climber? What is your real goal? Is it the task of climbing the mountain, or the goal of becoming a mountain climber? And then when you start thinking about that, you realize that's where it gets back into what's more important, the destination or the journey. If it's a task, it's easy to accomplish task, but a goal creates something within you, that you become something, not get something. Does that make sense to
Mhm.
you?
Yeah. So do you think that, well, I mean, I'm hearing you that a lot of that has to do with a mistake in goal setting is that we are task setting, and we may write down these lofty tasks
Mhm.
and put them in a drawer somewhere.
Hmm.
And then come several months later, we're just like, well, I never got around to doing that task. I mean, do you have any tips on what do we need to do to achieve a goal?
It's again, this is one of the mistakes we make is we set goal. When we set a goal, we want to know exactly how to accomplish that goal before we will accept it. We got to know the entire path from the campfire to the top of the mountain. We got to have that laid out completely all the way before we'll say, yeah, I'll take on that. And it goes back to President Kennedy. I don't know if you remember, Kennedy's speech in 1963 when he said, we're going to go to the moon by the end of the century.
Hmm.
And everybody said, yeah, and that's because we know exactly how to do that. And the answer was no. Nobody knew how to get to the moon, but he still stood up on the stage and empowered a nation to launch a campaign to get to the moon. But nobody knew how to do it. And if he had set his goals at that time based on what he knew, based on an achievable goal, the moon would not have been an option. It wouldn't have been in the conversation because nobody could achieve that. So he set a goal of we're going to the moon and we're going to figure our way how to do it along the way. And it goes back to climbing the mountain. When we started the journey up Trinity Peak is the one that I talk about, is that we could see the mountain, but we didn't know how to get to the top. We had a map, but the map had no trail to get to the top. So it was a over 9,000 foot mountain, and we were taking a group of young scouts up there. So we had to leave the campfire and start our way and discover the path along the way. And there were a lot of setbacks. There were a lot of turns arounds and in places where we had to scramble up sections of cliff, find an old elk trail or deer trail and follow it for a bit. But eventually we made it to the top. But we had to discover along the way. And you couldn't see where you were going because you were in the forest. And what I've learned for everybody is that there's three really tough things on achieving your goal or your climbing the mountain. Is number one, everything worthwhile is uphill, right? When the trail is going uphill, that's tough. But we love it when we have uphill climbing because we feel the burn. We feel like we're growing, we're getting better, we're getting stronger. We got that. And then there's the times when the trail goes down. And when it goes down, you're like, man, I'm losing ground. This is tough. But again, we like that fight because that's when we can tighten up the straps on our backpack. We huddle together as a team. We're going to pull this off. We're going down right now, but let's stick together. We can fight this. We're going to survive. What Seth Godin calls the dip in his book, The Dip. It talks about, but we're going down into the dip, and we're going to survive. So we're together. We can bond over that. So going uphill and going down are really, team building events for them. Where it gets tough is when the trail is flat and level. That's the third environment you're in, is where you're walking and you're neither going up or down. And in many cases, it's like, I'm bored.
Complacency.
I'm complacent. Now my mind's starting to think of, where can I set up a campfire, man? Where can I stop and take a break? And you start questioning yourself, am I going anywhere? Am I actually achieving anything here? Or am I just getting lost in the woods? Am I just getting farther away from the campfire? Am I just getting further into the woods on this journey? And that's where it goes back to that goal. Was that goal something that was passionate to you? Was that goal something that really meant something? Was that something that was, I can achieve this. I can, or was this, no, my vision is still there. The mountain is still in front of me. And so the toughest time to get through is when the trail is flat and level and you don't seem to be going up or down, but you just got to keep going. You got to keep going and pushing through it because it goes back. It's the journey, not the destination. You're in the journey right now.
I see, as you're talking, I'm going back into my old life in corporate world. My goal setting was different than it is as an entrepreneur. And what you're talking about in goal setting as a self-leader, an entrepreneur, maybe solopreneur, but you're leading with your goals a whole organization, even if that's an organization of one. Whereas in my former life, I was following the organization's goals And then I had my personal goals. Maybe I wanted to pay off my car and faster, or wanted to do this. There's nothing wrong with those types of goals. But the goals that you're talking about has everything to do with the vision and leading an organization, whether that's an organization of one or of many. And there's a little bit different nuances with that than setting personal goals.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm taking out of it. I mean, is maybe
It,
I'm wrong. I don't
and
know.
what you're describing is, so you set a personal goal that I want to pay my car off early. Well, that's getting something kind of a way. That's a mentality.
Right.
I'm going to get this done, right?
Right.
Instead of, I want to become somebody who has my car paid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to build my business, and in my business, in where I am, my car paid off is just something that's who I am. So when I went out and sold cars for a bit. When I stepped away from corporate America, I went and sold cars on a lot. That was a big challenge. Well, the goal of we were given was to sell 7 to 10 cars a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yet there were guys on the lot who sold 20 cars a month. And that's where I started evolving this image, this idea that we were at 7 to 10 cars trying desperately to set a goal to sell 10 cars. Yet the guys that were selling 20 cars sold them almost automatically every month, because they weren't trying. Their goal was not to sell 20 cars. They were somebody who sold 20 cars, which meant everything that was happening around them brought the cars brought the people to them. Their method of doing referrals, their method of being on the phone, making calls and contact and asking. And they never stood on the corner. If you ever go to a car lot, all the guys are standing in the corner waiting for you to drive up so they can pounce. Right? Mm-hmm. Those guys that sold the 20 cars were inside waiting for their next appointment. Someone who had set an appointment with them to come in and buy a car, or a referral that was coming to the door. So we're out trying to achieve a goal, to get something. They had become people who were at that level. And that was the difference. And so we set goals. It goes back to what is, do I work in my company or on my company? Is my company a company that do I make donuts, or do I own a company that makes donuts? Am I the owner of a company that makes donuts? What is it I've become versus what do I get? And that's, to me, the line is sometimes we're going to step back and say, okay, I've got a lot of gets. They're all on the refrigerator. They're lined up on those. Are get. But what does that make me? What do I become when all of that's? If I went and got all of that done, what changes? What has evolved in me?
Casting that vision is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm taking from it. That when you've not been an entrepreneur for very long and have worked in corporate, being a follower and assimilating into a company culture, being a great worker have a lot of value in that arena, but the mindset is different as an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. You have to cast the vision. And sometimes when we start out, that's a mindset shift that comes over time. And it boils right down into how you set goals. And I'm having some light bulb moments of it's like, it's the get stuff. I think that a lot of us are guilty of writing down a whole slew, too many goals, because they are task oriented and the get. Mm-hmm. And when you can have an overlying big goal, and it doesn't have to be accomplished in a year. I think that's what we try to do. We're starting on January 1st and ending on December 31st, and by golly, I better have achieved it, and I'm going to move on to something else.
17 January is the official worldwide day of abandoning your residence for the year.
Yeah.
So you get 17 days in, and hey, So the pain is greater than the reward, so it's out the door.
So when is a good time to start goal setting?
Well, what do they say about planting a tree? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, or today. Yep. There's 2 times, 20 years ago or today. Don't wait till tomorrow. You got to step away from that Hummer. You got to step away from the Hummer. Keep the compass away so it doesn't keep pointing you back toward the Hummer, so you can actually take a true shot of where you want to go.
It's a good idea to revisit that all the time, huh?
Yes. And we got to step out. Yeah. So you got to step away sometimes and kind of step back and take a real good look at what it is you're trying to achieve. And it's, I say, when you start coaching, start putting it in words that say, I want to become something, that starts changing, because then your imagination starts taking all those tasks and you can begin imagining how that fits together into becoming somebody who sells 20 cars, somebody who has the house paid off, the car paid off. I'm living that lifestyle, right? That's what my lifestyle looks like. That's what I want to become. I don't want to pay off the house. I want to become somebody who has the house paid off. And then that kind of alters that becomes passion in me. If I'm just trying to pay the house off, I'm working on getting to the end of the month. If I take that and I create an imagination of what that future looks like. You can't imagine what it looks like from the top of the mountain from the campfire. You have to let your imagination, figure out what does it look like from up above. When I'm on top of the mountain, what am I going to see? What's it going to look like up there? So that you have the top of the mountain down vision versus, around the campfire up, because you'll always be limited. But you got to know that as the higher you get up, you're going to see more, you're going to experience more, you're going to meet people on the trail who are uphill people instead of campfire people. They're people on the journey with you, and you're going to learn to experience and grow at a whole different level. The higher you get up, the higher it's like back to the law of the lid. The higher you go up, you start meeting new opportunities, new possibilities.
Yes.
And seeing more.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm excited for your upcoming webinar about goal setting. And then with that, you're going to discuss more about the proper way to cast your vision, set goals, and avoiding the mistakes in goal setting. How do folks stay in touch with you to make sure that they don't miss out on this webinar?
Well, you can go to my Facebook page, which is MT2 Leadership. Okay, everybody, Marshall Townsend II, that's me, and MT2 Leadership. Okay, I have to explain it. But so that's on Facebook or on Instagram, but also you can go to my webpage, which is marshalltownsend.com. And there's a link there where you can sign up for my newsletter or and I don't flood you with my newsletters, but you get your newsletter that lets you know what's coming up next, what's webinars coming up, what events are happening. Then from there, you have the option to jump on the webinar. And if you can't jump on the webinar when they're live, I always record them, and then they're available for you to watch it or listen to at a later time. So at your leisure.
I love your analogies about the trail and the mountains and everything like that, because I'm a big outdoorsy person, and we do a lot of overland travel and camping and work from anywhere type stuff. So your analogies really resonate with me. Marshall, before we go, I'm sure I asked this the last time, but I always like to ask my guests, what is a favorite resource or book that's really made a difference for you personally or professionally?
One of the ones I really like is the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. It's a John C. Maxwell book.
I just read it.
And I love this book because I use it when I do masterminds. When I go in and work with a company or just individual entrepreneurs, we sit together and we use this as a resource. And I just love to be able to take a single chapter, read a chapter, and just think into it. I mean, you do a chapter a week, just take your time. So you don't try to read the book, cover to cover. Just take a chapter, read it. And to me, that's a powerful resource. I really love that book.
Awesome. Well, I know I follow your podcast. I'll have all the links in the show notes. And thanks, Marshall, for being here today.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me. If you haven't subscribed yet, I'd be honored if you would, and even leave a nice comment in the form of a review. Until next time, have a fantastic week.